Today, I can reveal that Meghan Markle's fakery with British Airways has just been exposed.
Not to interrupt the passengers. And it would be weird. They wouldn't just know that it was Harry.
Aren't I amazing to get this wedding anniversary card from the British Airways crew?
And you know why Meghan does this? Because she thinks that we're all morons like her.
Because Meghan flew back from Switzerland on British Airways. Meghan says thanks to the amazing flight crew.
On that flight, Meghan refused to touch or look after Archie even.
Meghan Markle is stunningly oblivious to her own hypocrisy, and that is definitely beginning to damage her in the...
Well, yeah. I mean, how would they know? How would British Airways know? She must have told them.
Dan's got the answer. I think you're onto something, Mark.
Wedding anniversary because there were 4 candles on it. I really don't care. I don't care. Prince Harry, he's stuck in the
From nothing to becoming effectively a royal, which 0.0001% of the population.
Her this card expressing what a delight she is on the flight. That's despite the fact, and you might remember actually.
Here, one from the wedding and one pushing her candle. So at first glance,
Sharing memories of her royal wedding after that Geneva trip. It was very special and so appreciated.
This manipulative, this scheming, right? This snake. That's what this...
On board, especially if you are celebrating a major milestone, like an 8th.
Famous for the atrocious ways that she treats crews on international.
It's really beginning to show and damage her reputation. So guys, we are going to get into this latest.
Tell stories of people like bowing or giving special deference whenever she flies. So it's a whole...
Married a few months before Meghan and Harry did. So this is mine and my husband's 8th year. We gave each other cards. And
what if the story everyone was celebrating was never the real story at all? What if the anniversary surprise that flooded headlines, generated glowing comments, and painted Meghan Markle as the center of another heartwarming royal adjacent moment was actually the beginning of a much bigger problem? Because that is exactly what palace watchers, aviation, and royal critics began whispering after a shocking British Airways audit revelation allegedly sent the entire narrative crashing into a wall. And suddenly, what looked like a sweet anniversary gesture started looking like something very different. For days, Meghan's supporters celebrated what appeared to be a touching moment: a handwritten anniversary card, a bottle of champagne, warm wishes from a British Airways crew. The image spread rapidly. Social media loved it. Celebrity magazines loved it. Lifestyle blogs treated it like proof that Meghan remained one of the most admired public figures in the world. Everything seemed perfectly packaged. Too perfectly. Because behind the scenes, questions had already started circulating. Quiet questions at first. The kind nobody wants to ask when a feel-good story is performing exactly the way it was designed to perform. Then came the audit. According to growing speculation, internal reviews reportedly forced attention onto details that had previously been ignored. Tiny details, small inconsistencies, little pieces of information that on their own meant nothing but together started creating a picture that nobody expected. And the first crack appeared in the card itself. People began asking the obvious question: why was the card addressed to both Harry and Meghan when only one of them appeared connected to the journey? Why would airline staff write a joint anniversary message if only one spouse was present? Why wasn't the card simply addressed to Meghan? At first, those questions seemed harmless. Then more questions followed. Why did the anniversary message appear publicly almost immediately? Why did media coverage appear so quickly afterward? Why did everything seem prepared, polished, and ready for distribution before most people even realized the flight had landed? The timing started bothering people. The pattern started bothering people. And once people began noticing patterns, they rarely stopped. Behind closed doors, rumors began spreading that an audit review had highlighted procedures involving passenger recognition programs, milestone celebrations, customer personalization systems, and pre-arranged special treatment requests. Suddenly, what had appeared spontaneous no longer looked spontaneous at all. That was when the atmosphere changed, because the entire emotional impact of the story depended on one thing: surprise. If people believed airline staff spontaneously decided to celebrate Meghan's anniversary, the story felt magical. If people believed believed the event had been facilitated through normal procedures, customer data, pre-existing systems, or special arrangements, the magic disappeared instantly. And that is exactly where the controversy exploded. The more observers examined the situation, the more uncomfortable the questions became. How did the captain know? How did the crew know? How did the anniversary become such a central part of the flight experience? Why did everything align so perfectly with a larger week of publicity surrounding Meghan's activities? Suddenly, every answer created two new questions. And while supporters defended the story, critics became increasingly suspicious. Some claimed the anniversary moment looked less like a surprise and more like a carefully constructed public relations opportunity. Others argued the entire situation reflected a broader pattern they believed had appeared repeatedly over recent years. Then, the audit revelation reportedly added fuel to the fire, because instead of clearing up confusion, it allegedly highlighted how airline systems routinely collect and use personal milestone information to enhance customer experiences. That changed everything, because if the information already existed inside airline databases, then the entire mystery surrounding the card became much easier to explain. No dramatic coincidence, no extraordinary act of recognition, no magical moment, just systems doing exactly what systems are designed to do. And that possibility reportedly sent critics into a frenzy. The story was no longer about an anniversary card. It was becoming a debate about authenticity itself. Meanwhile, Meghan found herself trapped in a familiar position. The more attention this story received, the more scrutiny followed. The more scrutiny followed, the more questions emerged. And the more questions emerged, the harder it became to control the narrative. What started as a celebration was slowly transforming into an investigation. One built entirely on details. One built entirely on timing. One built entirely on a growing sense that something wasn't quite adding up. And that was the moment the anniversary stunt reportedly began unraveling completely. Not because somebody produced one devastating piece of evidence. Not because a whistleblower stepped forward with a secret recording. But because dozens of small details started pointing in the same direction at the same time. And when that happens, the public stops focusing on what happened and starts focusing on why it happened. The conversation shifted almost overnight. Instead of asking whether the anniversary gesture was sweet, people started asking whether it had been strategically useful. That distinction matters, because useful moments are planned. Useful moments fit neatly into larger campaigns. Useful moments arrive exactly when attention is needed. And critics quickly noticed that the anniversary card didn't exist by itself. It appeared during a week packed with visibility. There were photos, there were public appearances, there were media stories, there were social media posts, there were brand-related discussions. Everything seemed connected. Everything seemed designed to keep momentum moving in one direction. The anniversary card suddenly looked less like a random event and more like another piece of a much larger puzzle. That is where the alleged audit revelation became truly damaging. Because if internal systems had simply generated information that allowed staff to recognize a passenger milestone, then the emotional story attached to the gesture became far less dramatic. The extraordinary became ordinary. The surprise became procedure. The headline became routine. And critics immediately seized on that possibility. They argued that the public had been encouraged to see an authentic emotional moment when in reality they were witnessing something much more calculated. Whether that claim was fair or not almost stopped mattering. The perception itself became the story. Meanwhile, the silence surrounding the controversy grew louder by the day. People expected clarification. People expected explanations. People expected someone to step forward and settle the debate. Instead, they got almost nothing. And silence has a strange effect during a controversy. The longer it lasts, the more theories it creates. Soon, online discussions were exploding with speculation. Some claimed the anniversary moment had been coordinated from the very beginning. Others believed the entire situation was a misunderstanding amplified by social media. But regardless of which side people took, one thing became impossible to ignore. The original feel-good story was gone. In its place stood a controversy built around timing, a controversy built around optics, a controversy built around whether public perception had been carefully managed. And for Meghan, that reportedly created an even bigger problem, because once audiences begin questioning authenticity, every future story gets examined through the same lens. Every photograph, every appearance, every emotional moment, every exclusive interview, every social media post, nothing escaped scrutiny. Suddenly, people were revisiting older stories, looking for similarities, looking for patterns, looking for moments that felt strangely familiar. The anniversary card had opened a door, and critics rushed through it. What they found only intensified the discussion. The same magazine relationships, the same rapid media rollouts, the same anonymous sourcing, the same carefully polished narratives appearing almost immediately after events occurred. To supporters, that was simply effective. To critics, it looked like something else entirely. And that difference in interpretation became the real battle. Because this story was never truly about a card. It was never truly about champagne. It was never truly about an anniversary. It was about trust. Trust in the story being told. Trust in how that story reached the public. Trust in whether audiences were seeing reality or by now, the anniversary gesture that was supposed to generate admiration was reportedly creating the exact opposite effect. Instead of strengthening Meghan's image, it was feeding a conversation she desperately did not want dominating headlines. The conversation about image management, the conversation about narrative control, the conversation about whether spontaneous moments were actually spontaneous at all. And perhaps the most uncomfortable part of the entire saga was how easily it could have been avoided. If nobody had examined the details, the story would have passed quietly into the endless stream of celebrity content. If nobody had questioned the timing, the headlines would have remained positive. If nobody had connected the dots, the anniversary moment would have achieved exactly what it appeared designed to achieve. But somebody did connect the dots. Then more people connected them. And once enough people started looking, the entire picture changed. That is why the alleged British Airways audit revelation became such a nightmare. Not because it definitively proved, not because it solved every mystery, but because it encouraged people to ask questions they had not been asking before. Questions that refused to disappear. Questions that transformed a celebration into a controversy. Questions that turned a carefully curated anniversary moment into a public relations headache. And now the card remains. The photographs remain. The headlines remain. The discussions remain. But so do the doubts. Because once a narrative begins to crack, every new detail widens the fracture. And according to royal watchers, that may be the most damaging revelation of all. The anniversary stunt was supposed to reinforce the story. Instead, it became the story. And that story is still unfolding.